So, Erin, I'm going to stop talking. Tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background.
Yes, well, hello everybody. So good to see you guys. And Tyler really values this coaching group, so I'm glad to be a part of it. And I don't really like to do stuff like this, so getting butterflies in my stomach just right before it started. He's the one that talks for us most of the time, so and I'm okay with that. Um, yeah, so I grew up in Shallowater with Tyler. We were friends and I grew up going to church. It was a big part of my life. And we were in the same youth group together. So I had really good friends, a really great friend group. And I think church to me was important. And I made sure I was going to all of the youth events and church gatherings. But I don't think in my mind though it was more about just going and like doing the right thing. And so I am a rule follower, and so I thought, well, this is what we're supposed to do, so I'm going to go do these things. But one of the things that DMM has challenged me with is being led by the Spirit. And I can say when I was growing up, I did not like to talk about the Spirit. And I was like, that's crazy. And I'll just do the right thing, and that's all I have to do. And so that's kind of how I grew up. And my faith was more about doing the right thing, not necessarily being led by the Spirit. I definitely wanted people to know about Jesus, but I would do that by asking them to go to church. And that was about the extent. Mm-hmm. And Tyler and I, we got married pretty young. So we also grew up in our spiritual journeys together. And church has always been a part of our lives because he's worked in churches ever since we got married. And even then, it was still about like being there and doing the right thing. I was involved through like mostly small groups, like being a small group leader is how we were involved. But on Sundays, I didn't see Tyler very much because he was so busy. And so a lot of times there was a disconnect between spiritual, like on Sunday, we just didn't really do spiritual things together. I mean, I would go to the service and he would be there, but we just really weren't able to interact because he was so busy. So that is one thing I've really enjoyed about this process is being able to do it together and like side by side.
Mm-hmm. So, how many kids do you have, Erin?
Okay, we have 2 kids. Scarlett is 8 and Dax is 4.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So,
and I'm a CPA, so I do taxes, so I'm about to start my season.
So you mentioned, Erin, that when, in the old model, we didn't spend a whole lot of time with each other on Sundays. Mm-hmm. What did your Sunday look like whenever we had our gatherings? Specifically when Scarlett came, what did your Sunday look like? And then kind of what does it look like now?
Yeah. So I pretty much did everything by myself, get Scarlett ready. I'd do grocery shopping, and my parents, so one of the cool things about going to Eli is my parents went too. And so we would usually try to go together and sit together at the service. So they would help me with Scarlett. But I remember one Mother's Day where, Mother's Day is on a Sunday. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get so spoiled from Tyler. And I was like, oh, no, he had to leave at like 7 a.m. and I didn't see him the rest of the day or something. And so like, oh, that's not okay. So, I pretty much did everything by myself on Sundays. And then one of the things you guys did after Sunday services is you would pray like from 8 p.m. to midnight. And so even when you got home, it's like you were still, and I could join in on the prayer, and sometimes I did, but it wasn't like we were really able to talk to each other. So yeah, so those were kind of lonely days.
And then what does it look like now? What does kind of a Sunday look like now?
Yeah, so we wake up together and we get ready together. We do church together. We do prayer before we have our DBS. And sometimes I'm in charge of one of those elements. And so getting ready for that, but also talking about how we can get the kids involved. And we're listening to worship songs together. So, and I just feel like, well, and we're also not when we were going to services and hearing the same message, and we could talk about that, but I don't know if we ever did. Like, I don't know if I would get home on Monday and be like, oh, yeah, this is what I learned from the message yesterday with Tyler. It was kind of like I just moved on. Where now we're doing our DBS together and like learning the same thing and being challenged by the same thing. So I really have really liked that part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, we probably didn't talk about it because I at that point I had heard the message 5 times. The
Yeah.
last thing I wanted to rehash was the message again, right? Yeah. So okay, so let's talk about you, and you've alluded to it a little bit, but before DMM, how involved, what did you see your role as in making in church or making disciples? What did you see your role before DMM?
Yeah, so I feel like some of my gifts are like administrative and organization. And so at some point, for a little while, I was kind of over small groups organization and planning meetups together and like sending out emails to all the leaders and letting everyone know about events. So I had that role for a little while. And then we've always been a small group leader together, but that was mostly, I don't know if I ever felt like as much of a leader as Tyler. It was more like I'm supporting Tyler because he's the pastor, but I want to do it so we can do it together because that was kind of the one thing we could do together.
Yep.
And then of course I would try to build relationships with the women there, but I don't know if I felt like more of it was like a supportive role to you.
Yep. So as we made the journey, and so probably the first time you heard about DMM was probably somewhere around 2017, 2018. We really hadn't done a whole lot at our church, but what were your initial thoughts when you heard about DMM or disciple making? What was exciting? What was scary? Just kind of what were your initial thoughts when I did bring it to you? Because even when I brought it to you, you were probably several months behind what books I had read and things I had gone through. What were your initial thoughts?
Yes, I remember when we first talked about it, we were going on a walk around our neighborhood and just thinking, I just don't know about not having a building or not going to a building. And I just don't know if that's for me. Like, I just don't know. Going to church was such a big part of my life and like going to the building. And so this thought of like, well, I just that community and not being around that community and those people and the worship. I loved the worship and the music. I was like, I don't think that's for me. And so, yeah, I just really wasn't that excited about it. And then I scared, I think, about losing the relationships in the community. And then just like selfishly, like the worship, which I always was my favorite part. And, we would go to like church and after the service, I would visit with people for like 20 or 30 minutes. And so like, well, you can't do that. Like, when am I going to talk to people? So it wasn't really something that I thought. And I kind of thought, oh, I don't think we'll ever do that. We'll just maybe talk about it, but I don't know if we would ever do that. So
I don't know if the idea of losing worship is selfish.
Okay. Thank you.
I support you in that.
Okay.
Well, and Erin, my question would also be, I think those of us on this call know, I can go fast and I can be hard charging. Were there times where it was hard to either keep up or feel like you were being dragged along? Did you ever have a sense of like, just slow down or any of those kind of feelings?
Yes. So I remember the first training that I started going to, we were still doing our traditional services, but we were having a training in the morning and you had already done it. So I was going by myself. And I knew some of the other people there, but I was not really that excited about going. And so I'm pretty sure I missed several weeks. And you would keep saying, okay, Erin, you need to go. And I'm like, oh no, if I want to go. And then they were asking me the accountability questions. Like, did I do what I said I was going to do? And did I share? And I did not do that. And so I did not want to go and tell people that I did not do the accountability. And so I was, yeah. And I just kept thinking like, I don't think this is going to be what we're going to do. So I don't really have to be that into it. Yeah, it was, and I think because I was doing it by myself too, I just felt like, well, I don't really know if Tyler, since he's not going with me and I don't really want to go by myself. So it just wasn't that important to me. But I do remember being like, oh, this is really true and kind of simple what they're asking us to do. But I still wasn't completely invested in that. And so that was probably a year before, I don't know. Yeah, the timing. I feel like that happened. And then it was probably a whole nother year before we kind of decided to do it together.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was probably 2018. That was before our 10-year anniversary. If you've read the book, you remember the 10-year anniversary. So this is before, this training is before. And I think, go ahead.
So I knew some of the couples that were getting ready to launch, like my sister and brother-in-law were one of them. And so I was just kind of like, okay, they're going to do that. And they can be the ones that try this thing. And I'm just going to pray for them.
I think one of the things that it kind of shows is I think both of us were still struggling with a mindset. And I think a lot of people in Catalyst come to this of going, I'm a pastor and I have my thing, but that doesn't necessarily mean that my family has to do all the same things, right? And I'm not saying it has to be that way, but one of the things that I wish I had done better is brought you in sooner and done it together sooner, even if it was just getting on the same page. Because I think a lot of times there was some floundering and like some uncomfortableness that didn't have to be there simply because we were doing separately. And so that's one of the things just to think through is how can you bring someone in on this journey as soon as possible? So, but so Erin, we're kind of talking about beginning stages, but that's not where you ended up. So was there a process that you went through in deciding to pursue DMM, or was there a turning point? Or kind of talk us through that from you've gotten training and it's kind of uncomfortable, you're not sure about it, to where you are now. How did you get to where you are now?
Yeah, so we were continually talking about these ideas and like the 7 cells at church on Sunday. So I was just being exposed to this, and then I think the Lord just was opening me up to some of these ideas. And then also I think we found other people that were getting ready to start it together too. And so I think that helped me with being more willing to try it, because I felt like I had people that were also willing to do that too. And then within the transition at our church, it was kind of hard because I felt I did have a lot of hurt by some of the people that I really trusted, like did things that I didn't think were that great. And so I had a lot of hurt towards that. And so I think I was almost feeling like, okay, well, I'm going to try this because that was maybe not how I wanted it to go. And so, and then a lot of people didn't like Tyler. And so that was hard because I like to have people like me. And so knowing that they didn't like Tyler, that was really, and he's like, nah, it's fine. And I'm like, how do you just not go? So, and so I kind of felt like, well, I can't do that. And so this is what we have. And there's other people who are willing to do it with us. So I guess we'll just try this. So even when we started it, I don't think I was like totally into it. It's kind of like, well, this is what we have at this point. So let's go.
Yeah. So you were trying it. You were just going, hey, I'm going to try it. I'm going to whatever. I don't know that I'm fully bought in, but I'm going to give it a go. Then where did it go from? Because we're going to talk about some of those challenges you mentioned. We're going to talk about that in a second. We're going to explore that. But what then was the process? So you went from not sure, but trying it. Then what was kind of the next thing?
So I think one of the things that helped me a lot was prayer, because we started just praying more, and that was probably a newer thing for me to be that intentional about prayer. And so I think just the more I prayed and prayed for other people, that helped me realize the need to like want to do this and want to share with everybody around me. And then also it gave me confidence. Like there were tools here that I felt like I can share with people. I can tell a story from the Bible and pray within. And I can ask the Lord to give me insight into what I need to pray. And I think I saw examples of that in my life when I had asked for those things. And so I just felt more confident. Before it was always just like, oh, you're hurting. Well, I will tell you, I will pray for you, but I'm not going to do it at that point. And then I'll ask you to go to church with me. So it wasn't, I just didn't feel like equipped, or I didn't feel like I could help them in any way. And so yeah, through prayer, I felt more confident. I was starting to realize, asking the Spirit to help me, just seeing examples, and then seeing examples of like what Tyler was doing and how the Lord was answering prayer and like using him. So I think that gave me confidence too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So where would you say you are now in that journey? Are you still unsure? Are you still kind of, where are you?
No, I feel like this is what I want to be doing. And I mean, I still don't think I'm doing all that I want to be doing. I feel like I can grow, but I do feel more comfortable with my role. So I think part of well, I'm probably jumping ahead too, but some of it was trying to figure out my role and what that looks like, because it's not going to look just like Tyler's. And so sometimes I felt bad that I couldn't do all that Tyler was doing, or go all the places he was going, but just being satisfied, or being like, I have spaces like at my work or with my kids, with other mom friends and stuff. I have places that I can make a difference and still be known as a spiritual person. And so kind of accepting that and then like doing all I can in that space. So that's kind of where I am now, is like I'm probably not able to go out as much as we would like to, but I'm really trying to focus on where I am and the people around me that I see all the time. So,
yeah, I would say, Erin, one of the things that I remember, and you may not even remember this conversation, but there was a time we had gone through some challenges. Many of you know, we've had to restart our house church. I'm probably not, I think it's 4 or 5 times. I can't remember exact details, but it was probably the lowest I've been in this journey. I was really discouraged. We had some different things blow up. And I can remember asking Erin, do you even want to do this? Like, if you don't want to do this, like I'll be done. I was really discouraged. And y'all know Erin. She's not the most forceful person in the world, but she just looks me right in my eye, and it's exactly what I needed. And she goes, you can do whatever you want to do, but I'm going to do this. And I said, oh, wow. I don't know where we went in it over the course of time, but it was at that moment that I realized I'm not leading this. We're doing this together. And I think that's a shift. I don't know exactly when that shift happened, but that happened along the way in that journey. So Erin, now let's talk about, I know we're going to get to joys here in a second, but there have been challenges.
Yeah.
What have been some of the biggest challenges for you, either personally or in our marriage or whatever, throughout this journey? What have been some of the biggest challenges?
Yeah, so it has been messy. We were kind of talking about that earlier. Just I guess when we have been in this group and we're doing things together and we're asking like how you're doing, and then hard things come up, we can't just like not do something about it. And so we have had a few years of really just hard things going on with some of the people in our church. And so I think that has been challenging. It just hasn't been really pretty or clean and stuff. So like being invested together and like being on this together, yeah, it has been messy. Where before, I just think, we had our small groups, but I just don't know if it was maybe as deep as it is. I don't know if that's a good word, but before I'd be like, okay, well, we're going to pray for you. But I just don't know if I would have been as willing to like do the extra things to like help them through that process or something. So I've definitely been challenged by just like giving a lot of myself to help others too.
Yeah.
That we love and are trying to do this too. Yeah, because we're just not immune to things just because we're doing this. So yeah. So yeah, definitely messy. And then one of the harder things was my role comparing myself to Tyler and like all that he's able to do and like, because we'll do our goals and just the hours that he has for things or prayers or conversations, and mine is just so small compared to that. And so, but being more comfortable with what I do have and taking advantage of the opportunities I do have. So I think I've had to accept that.
Yeah, because
and then also
in tax season, how many hours a week do you work on average?
it's like 55 or more.
Yeah, more. He's working close to 60.
Yeah,
but
so.
That is something that I think we all have to realize, or at least I had to come to the realization. It had nothing to do with her level of buy-in. It had to do with, hey, she's working a lot more hours than I do. And so, of course, I'm going to be able to talk with more people. But anyway, sorry, Erin. I think that's a big part of it. Yeah. What else? Anything else that was a challenge? Now, I don't want to be just a total bummer the whole time, because there are challenges, and I think those are important to acknowledge. But I think there's also some joys that have come from that. What have been some of your biggest joys personally, marriage, disciple making, whatever?
Yeah. Yes, I think I kind of mentioned it earlier, just being more confident and praying that the Spirit would lead me, just feeling like I do hear from the Spirit. That has been really encouraging. And, because before I would probably second guess myself, or I'd be like, well, I can't say anything unless Tyler's here because I know he can hear from the Spirit or he can be led. And then I'll just not say anything. So just having that confidence and seeing the results of prayer and just the time I've spent with the Lord and being able to trust that it is Him speaking to me. So I've just been really grateful for that. And I don't know if I was not like tapping into that before. So I think you can definitely have that if you're not doing this. I just don't think I was doing that. So because I feel like I had the tools to do that more. And then just having a community, it's been, when we started this, we definitely were just focusing on Lubbock. But it's just been really cool to see how people all over the country and in different parts of the world are doing this too. And I just am so encouraged by the different stories of other people and their faithfulness, and that challenges me to be faithful. So it's been really cool to hear more about that and what they're doing. And being encouraged by other moms or other working professionals that are able to make a difference, kind of like me too. So being encouraged that, hey, that can happen anywhere, especially here. So I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
And then also I just love doing it with Tyler and with our family. Now I don't know if you've mentioned this before, like with our kids, we're still trying to figure out, what's best to how to include them on Sundays, especially our 8-year-old who's starting to understand more and youth group was such a huge part of my life. And so just trying to figure out what this might look like as she gets older. We just, there's still a lot we don't know, but I do just love doing it together with Tyler and with our kids. So that has been a really big joy. Yeah.
What about, Erin, because I want you to talk about this past year, you've seen some cool things at your work because you've began to really focus in at your work. What have you seen develop this past year at your work?
Yeah, so one of our staff here, we were just talking about church and she asked what we did. And so I was talking about our house church and she was like, oh, that sounds really cool. And I was like, yeah, I'll have to tell you about it or something. And then we were like, well, actually, let's just do it here. And so we started meeting at lunch once a week, and we downloaded the Waha app and are going through the miracles topic and doing a DDS. And then so it was just us for a little while, and then she just started inviting other people, and so she has pretty much invited, I would say, most of the women here. And I think we've had like 7 other women come. Now right now, like yesterday we met and there were just 3 of us. So it's not like they've been all have been coming back. But she's maybe more quiet. And so I've just been really encouraged like by her boldness and inviting people. And then she pretty much leads it every week for us. So I've kind of not taking a charge. And then she's just had really cool stories about what she's doing like with her neighbors and how she's like trying to pray for them and share with them. And she grew up going to church, but I think she maybe was similar to me, just didn't feel like she could be the one to like do this or had the confidence, and now she like has these tools to do this. And so I'm just really proud of her. So, yeah.
Yeah. Several questions. If you have any questions, feel free to unmute, and then we'll spend about the next 10 to 15 minutes answering some of these questions, and then we're going to pray for Erin, and then we'll go to breakouts. So anybody have any questions?
Well, I'm always good for a question. Erin, it's good to see you.
I know. How are you?
Some of you know I had a chance to have breakfast with Tyler and Erin and the kids maybe before Christmas, sometime in December, right here in Washington.
Yeah.
So Erin, you mentioned that it's exciting to learn about not just the disciple making that's happening locally there in Lubbock with your house or others connected with eLife, but you know, the bigger picture globally. And so I just wondered if you could kind of share the channels through which you learn about that stuff. You know, and here I'm not getting into like, oh, Tyler's like talking about our stuff at the table, but I mean, how do you engage and hear about, you know, all the stuff that is happening in the eLife network? Since for us it's through the coaching groups and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yes. So you know, we have, well, Tyler is in our house church, and then also John Bradshaw, who is part of the eLife group. And so I guess that's how we do it, because he's been traveling to Thailand, and so we get to hear about what he's doing there, the trainings he's doing. And we usually pray for Thailand like every week in our church, whether because he's working on the Waha app or the Bangkok prayer app. So, and then just hearing from the listening movement. Is that the India, or is that the Thailand? Okay, so no,
not Thailand. Not Thailand.
That's India. Okay, yeah. Okay, and so he's also has insight into that too. And then I think probably through Tyler and just like whenever you guys compile what is going on or like how many groups, like he'll share that with our church. Like this is what we've seen this year. And so those are probably the main ways.
Would you also say prayer? What about like extended prayer? Because a lot of times in extended prayer, if y'all have cool stories, I'm just telling you, I'm for sure sharing those at our extended prayer night.
Okay. So, yeah, that's true. Mm-hmm.
And we do extended prayer once a month. It's a 3-hour prayer time that we then pray through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Question. Anybody else? Any other questions?
Hey, Erin. It's Dan. How are you?
Hi, Dean. Hi, good. How are you?
Good. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. It's super encouraging. Yeah, Tyler's been to my house. He's met my wife, so praise the Lord for that. But I was just wondering, from your perspective, what do you think? As a woman, as a wife, as a mother, um, what would you say is something to just keep in mind for, I guess, us as, men, husbands, whatever, fathers, as we're doing this with our wives, just to consider and keep in mind? Because, I think a lot of stories testify to this. God works through us so differently,
Mhm.
but also together in unity. But is there anything, advice or just, something along those lines of just keeping in mind as men, as the fathers, the husbands, to just keep in mind and kind of have peace about as we go on this journey with our wives in DMM?
Yeah, so one thing that I kind of get upset about is when Tyler shares a really cool story at church on Sunday and he hadn't told me about it yet. And he will say, "Oh, I forgot." And I'm like, "Well, this was really cool. How could you forget?" So I think I want to feel connected to him because, I'm not able to, I don't go to the jail once a week with him. And so I kind of feel like I'm still a part of it through him. And so just him sharing with me what he's seen or how God is answering prayer, I think has really been helpful for me. And then, yeah, so that I think he goes to the jail, and then when he has a group on Sunday nights, and he'll, just let me know, like, we had a really great conversation. And it's not like specifics, but just feeling like the Lord showed up this way, or this was really challenging too. Like he also tells me when it was a hard day at the jail, when there was someone there that wasn't listening or paying attention and was being very disruptive. And so I feel like I'm a part of that. And I think that has helped me a lot, just feel connected to what he's doing.
Mhm.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Erin, would you say that? Because a part of that for me was a journey in like how to honor you, realizing our time spent wasn't the same, but without Erin doing what she did, I would have to do less disciple making. I'd have to do more money making, right? So trying to say, hey, I need to honor her in what she's doing because it is allowing as a team us to do this together. And as you can tell, I'm definitely not perfect at it because there are times I totally forget that this happened at the church and or at the jail, and then I'll share it at the church. And she's like, "Why didn't you tell me?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's my bad." So,
And one of the things we have started doing at dinner when we are actually sitting down at dinner all together is trying to ask, some specific questions. So it does give us a chance to connect, and even for the kids to hear about it too. So I think that I have like that part. And we ask, how did you see God move today? And so it makes me reflect on the day and then even our kids. And then I get to hear how Tyler saw God move too. So I've really been are grateful for that because otherwise, he can tell me the big things that happen at the jail, but some small things he might forget. But when we ask that question, I think it makes us remember. So
Yeah.
that's
That's great. Thank you.
yeah. Thanks.
maybe one last question. Anybody else have one more question?
Do y'all just need
Yeah.
to know how I put up with Tyler every day?
Well, y'all
Yes.
probably can share war stories. They have to do it every week too. So
That is true. That is true. Okay. Sorry, Richard.
I do have one question.
good, Rich.
I'm sure there have been times when you felt like Tyler maybe has neglected you or the kids just because the demands of ministry. Have you found it easy or probably not easy, but have you been able to go to him and say, I think Tyler, you need to be a little more connected here at home and with me? Have you found that difficult, or have you grown in
Yes.
your ability to confront him about that?
Yes, I would say early on, I would have felt bad saying that because I would have been like, oh, well, he is a minister and
Right,
he's doing what he's supposed to be doing. And I don't want to get in the way of that. And so I think early on, even if I felt that, I didn't say anything because I was like, well, this is just how it's supposed to be. I do think I've come around now where I know that it's important, how I feel and how the kids are feeling is important to him enough that I would be able to bring that up. But we also, I feel like we go through seasons in our family because, I'm very busy during busy season. So so I'm the one that, misses more stuff. But then in the summer or in the fall, when he's hoping to travel some, we talk about it at the beginning of the year, so I know it's coming. And at this point, I'm excited for him to be able to do that. I mean, I know it'll be a little challenging for him to be gone, but I think just then I get to hear more about what's going on. And so I think at this point, it doesn't maybe frustrate me as much as it does excite me for him to be able to do that, because that's really important to him too. So, and he sacrifices a lot for me during busy season. So then it's kind of like that opportunity for him to get to do some of those things. So
Anyway,
yeah. And I do like that, even though I am very busy during busy season, on Sunday mornings, we're together as a family, and we're doing DBS and prayer together, and we are doing extended prayer once a month together. So I feel like has helped us stay connected more whenever I am my busiest. So,
Amen. Hey,
do you
Greg.
think so, Tyler?
Yeah,
So?
for
Okay.
sure. For sure. Greg, I saw you unmute. Do you have one last question? And then we'll try to do it briefly, and then we're going to thunder pray for Erin.
Sure. Yeah. Hi, Erin.
Hi.
Hey, I really appreciate you being transparent about your journey on learning to listen to the Spirit and have confidence that He's sharing with you. I'm on that journey with you.
Okay.
And I was just curious if there was one incident that stands out in your mind about hearing from the Spirit and what that was for you. Or if not, that's okay too.
Yeah. Well, I guess just example with my friend from work last year when so this was more recent and kind of in the beginning, just we were talking in the break room about church, and then I just felt the Lord be like, well, why don't you just do it here? And so I was like, okay, do you just want to do a DBS during lunch? And she's like, yes. And so, yeah, that was probably a more recent example, but I don't know if I have another example.
No, that's totally fine. That's awesome.
Okay.
That's yeah, I appreciate you.
But one of the things our church has been praying for is just, that we know the Lord's voice, and because I am a very internal processor, and so I can so easily just convince myself oh, I don't think that's what I'm supposed to do. I don't think that was the Lord. And so and then I kind of got to the point too, it's like, well, it's actually a really good thing. So I'm just going to do it because it could be the Lord. And if it's not, what's it going to hurt if I ask someone to pray for them? So trying to get to that place. Yeah.
I'm
not that I always do it, but
yeah, if it's not contradicting scripture and I feel like the Lord may or may not be Him, but I'm going to go ahead and step out.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.